What's happening, everybody? It's Sean with Reactions to the Classics, and today we got a reaction to the Yes album, of course, by Yes, brought to us by a friend, longtime supporter and patron of the channel, Trucker Kev. Thank you, Trucker Kev. Always appreciate you. Everything you bring to us, you bring us all these stone cold classics. Appreciate all the patrons. If you'd like to support us in any way, we greatly appreciate it. Check out the Patreon link below or the patron link on the end screen. All right, let's dive into this album. Trucker Kev always gives us some insight because, I mean, he picked it. He loves it. He says, some might say we're going down into the prog hole, although we're going down into the classic rock hole for the most part, with a great band that is loved by prog fans. This is a landmark classic, rated by critics, loved by loads of people. This is the album that put a Hall of Fame band on the map to stardom. An absolutely amazing piece of music made up of 6 songs, many songs close to 10 minutes long, but the time goes by so quick. What's interesting about this album is there's not segues. They're basically like great pieces of prog rock and a lot of the other kind of classic rock. They're made up of suites. This is one of those albums I'm never tired of. It's also found on the 1000 albums you must hear before you die. This is not just all about Yes fans, but about great fans of music, especially classic rock in general. The production on this is fantastic. The musicianship is amazing. And the songwriting by Jon Anderson and many more is very, very stellar. This is an extremely enjoyable album. I'm not going to rate it as far as favorite songs because they're all on this. They all are on this album. It's been one of my go-tos for 35 plus years. I'll save his final rating until the end. There is a lot of info out there on. I'm just going to give you a quick background on it. I don't know a lot about Yes. I mean, I know who they are. The Yes version I knew was the early 80s, The Owner of a Lonely Heart, that kind of stuff. I mean, I've heard a few of their songs from the 70s. I'm not a big prog rock guy. If you watch this channel, there are some prog stuff that I really love, but I mean, I'm not a guy that's going to go seek that out. But as Kev said, this is kind of a classic rock / prog rock in there. I found this is their third studio album, released in February of 1971 by Atlantic Records. It was the band's first album to feature guitarist Steve Howe, who replaced Peter Banks in 1970, as well as their last to feature keyboardist Tony Kaye until 1983's what I talked about, 90125. The album was the first by the band not to feature any cover songs. While the album retained close harmony singing, Kaye's Hammond organ, and Chris Squire's melodic bass, as heard on earlier releases, the new material also covered further styles, including jazz, piano, funk, and acoustic music. All the band members contributed ideas, and tracks were extended in length to allow music to develop. Howe contributed a variety of guitar styles, including a Portuguese guitar. It was a critical success and a major commercial breakthrough, as Kev alluded to. Reached 4 in the UK, 40 in the US, and eventually went platinum in the US, selling over 1 million copies. They had already recorded 2 albums for Atlantic Records by mid-1970, but neither had been commercially successful, and the label was close to dropping them, so they're kind of up against the wall here. They had replaced founding members Banks with Howe, who enjoyed playing a wider variety of styles, including folk and country music, and played a mix of electric and acoustic guitars. Singer Jon Anderson later said that Howe could, quote, jump from one thing to the other very fast, very talented. Several weeks went into the rehearsals. They had this like cottage out in England where they're rehearsing. Manager Roy Flynn, their manager at the time, came to tell the band he was leaving them and taking money he believed he was owed. This put them under severe financial stress. So these guys are already back against the wall. If this album doesn't make it, they're going to get dropped. Now their manager comes and takes all the rest of their money. They left concerts as their only source of income at the time. Flynn also owned 5% of the band's publishing revenues in perpetuity. That was later terminated, but it left the band bitter enough to retitle a short Bill Bruford instrumental on their next album, Fragile, 5% for nothing in protest. On November 23, 1970, the group were involved in a head-on vehicle collision while returning from the previous evening's gig. They all suffered shock, and Kaye's foot was fractured. He had to do the next few gigs in the album's cover photo shoot with it in plaster and a cast. Kaye's main instruments were the Hammond organ and piano. He was not interested in playing synthesizers, which had started to appear on the market. This proved to be a problem with the other members of the band, and Kaye thought his style conflicted too much with Howe's. He left the group during rehearsals for the follow-up album in mid-1971. That's where Rick Wakeman comes in. He replaced him there. As I mentioned earlier, they had started their careers as a cover band, but they did these rearrangements of the songs where it kind of totally changed them up. And this was the first album, as I mentioned earlier, to feature group written material in its entirety. Some familiar elements remain. Anderson, Howe, and Squire sang 3-part vocal harmony throughout the record, so that's going to be something to look forward to, while Squire's melodic bass and Bill Bruford's spacious drumming make up their unique rhythm section. Artwork, front cover was shot by Phil Franks the day after the accident that I talked about, the head-on collision. He'd already taken some photos from a gig that they did, but he felt they needed something more for the front cover. They showed up late, having been in the hospital earlier in the day. These guys are just up against, right? They get out of the hospital, I got to go for the photo shoot. So that left them only 30 minutes available to shoot. Unable to get a satisfactory photo in the studio, Franks took the band around to his flat, grabbed a polystyrene mannequin head from a bin, put a 1,000-watt light bulb in the kitchen light fitting, and improvised the shot. A really interesting story is, at the time of the album release, the British postal workers were on strike. So record stores could not send in the sales figures to Melody Maker, who was the big British chart at the time. So they couldn't really put together charts. So Richard Branson owned a record store on Oxford Street in London, of course, Virgin, the first business enterprise which he later built up into Virgin Group. He began compiling a chart from sales at his store and several others. In the interim, the BBC and other medias used it. The band's new manager promised them he would get their album on the charts, and did so by buying enough copies at Virgin to make it the best-selling album there, and thus put it high in the charts. So he cooked the charts, man. By the time the strike had ended, the album started to sell well due to its initial apparent success, right? People go, oh, wow, this album's high. Maybe I should go check it out. Pitchfork, who I really respect, gave it an 8.1 out of 10. Anderson was worried about the initial response to the album, but after about a month, noticed the fans started singing along at concerts and concluded this musical style could be developed and still remain popular. As they say, the rest is history. If you haven't watched a video here before, there's going to be a Vimeo link below with the music, because the music can't be on here. It'll get blocked by copyright. But just click that link, follow along with me. I'll have the lyrics up as always. Thanks again, Trucker Kev. And we're going to start off with Yours Is No Disgrace, written by Anderson, Squire, Howe, Kay, and Bruford. In other words, everybody. It originated from some lyrics written by Anderson with his friend David Foster. This was combined with other short segments of music written by the band in the rehearsals. Howe worked out the opening guitar riff on his own, while the rest of the band took a day's holiday. The backing track was recorded by the group in sections and edited together to make up the final piece. It was released as a single in some European countries, such as Italy and the Netherlands. Anderson stated the theme of the song was recognition that the kids fighting the war, of course the Vietnam War at the time, had no choice but to fight, and that the war wasn't their fault. The lyrics make their point by contrasting the suffering of the soldiers in Vietnam with people partying in Las Vegas. All right, man, well, let's do this. All right, Yours Is No Disgrace. It's really hard with music this long and so phenomenally done to give you kind of an overview of what I thought of it, because there's so much great stuff. I think the bass work on here definitely stands out from Squire, right? It's definitely showcased. It's not always that way. Even in prog or classic rock, you don't have the bass player prominent like this. So yeah, just well done. I thought the vocals were great. I thought the lyrics were really well done, right? Even though it's just an absolute intricate piece of music and the musicianship is at the very top level, they didn't mail it in on the lyrics, which they can, and that's fine. But, you did see, yesterday a morning came, a smile upon your face, Caesar's Palace, morning glory, silly human race. So he's just talking about, like we're just living carefree. But in verse 2, battleships confide in me and tell me where you are. Shining, flying, purple wolfhound, show me where you are. Lost in summer, born in winter, travel very far. Lost in losing circumstances. That's just where you are, right? Guys were drafted into the army. They didn't have a choice, man. You go or you go to jail or you flee to Canada. So they didn't have a choice. But the bridge to death-defying, mutilated armies gather near, crawling out of dirty holes. Their morals disappear. So I think he's basically saying, look, man, you don't have a choice about getting sent to war, but you do have a choice about what you do there. We could argue that too. We're not in that situation. We don't know that exactly either. But what a fantastic way to start this out. I thought Howe's guitar work was unreal. Bill's drumming is good. Tony Kaye on that Hammond organ. And I guess he's not on the Moog synthesizer, even though it's credited that way, because they said he wouldn't play it. Later on, when Rick Wakeman joined, he did play the mini Moog during live performances, but I guess that's where the confusion is. And I know it segues right into this next song, Clap, but I got to give you a little bit of a rundown on things. This one's from Howe. It was influenced by Chet Atkins and Mason Williams' classical gas. It was written to celebrate the birth of Howe's son, Dylan, on August 4th, 1969. Great day to be born. I was born on August 4th, 1971. It was the first independent composition that Howe wrote, and he stated that the applause he received is one of the most profound experiences of his early career. Needed that encouragement, man, don't we all? It's the only track on the original version of this album that was not recorded in the studio. This is a tape from a 19 1970 performance at the Lyceum Theatre in London. Clap. Steve Haddis absolutely shredding that guitar. Remember, this is a live performance, and I think it was kind of cool that they used the live performance to show you, look, man, there's no studio tricks here. This dude is just banging this out like this. So well done. Almost like a, I don't know, like a ragtime style almost, but just, I mean, that was great, man. Now we go into one of those songs that Kev was talking about at the start with the suites. We got Starship Trooper. We have three different things in here, right? We got Life Seeker, which is written by Anderson, Disillusion, which is written by Squire, and Warm, with a U, but I think it's with the pronunciation, by Howe. The spacey electronic sounding effect in this song was achieved by running the guitar backing track through and there's every which way to say this word, and I've heard it said every which way, a flanger, whatever. So the way this song came about, Anderson was aware of the title of Starship Troopers, a 1959 novel by Robert A. Heinlein, and from that got the idea of a Starship Trooper being another guardian angel and Mother Earth. It was constructed from pieces of music written separately, of course, by Anderson, Howe, and Squire. Howe had written the instrumental Warm section while he was in an earlier band, Bodast. It was heavily constructed in the studio, and as a result, they were never able to play it live quite the way they constructed it, which is understandable. A theme of Life Seeker, the first song, is the search for God. Anderson has stated the lyrics refer to, quote, the point within yourself that knows you, which we call God. The lyrics accept the fact that, quote, no matter how much you want to get clearer visions of what you're up to, you're only going to get a certain amount. So this is going to be fantastic, I would imagine. You got Anderson on lead, Squire, of course, on bass and backing, Howe on electric and acoustic, Tony Kaye on Hammond, and I guess the Moog, and then, of course, Bill Bruford on the drums. This ends out side one. Starship Trooper, what a piece of music. I had to make notes throughout because I would not remember all of it. It just takes you on quite the ride, right? I mean, that's just fantastic, man. The first part of it, Life Seeker, where Anderson's just he's singing. That's the majority of like the song as far as lyrically. That's more classic rock based, I would say. John sounds really good. The drumming's nice. The guitar is spot on as usual. And he does use this illusion of like talking about God. And he was asked about it. And he said that he found when he wrote lyrics in a plain, direct way to explain what they meant, it sounded wrong to him. So he would create more abstract seeming sound sculptures of words that present his idea in an impressionistic way. I think that's important to understand from him because you get that in a lot of their songs. So I thought that part of it was great. Then we go to Disillusion, right? The part that Squire wrote. But the guitar work reminded me of, Howe's guitar work reminded me a little bit of the previous track, Clap. It had more of that stuff. And we got harmony vocals on this. Life Seeker didn't really have a lot of harmony vocals in it. After its bridge, this is a really nice way and just a brilliant way to connect the song. After the bridge of Disillusion, it went back to the chorus of Life Seeker to connect them, right? And then we go with that guitar work that is fantastic guitar work of Warm, which Howe wrote. So this is definitely going to be a favorite, and this is just musicianship at the absolute highest level, and that ends off side one. Now we're going to go to side two. I've Seen All Good People. So it's got two in this one, two suites in this one. You've got Your Move, which is written by Anderson. The band had difficulty recording this section. It was resolved by making a tape loop of bass and drums over which Howe overdubbed a Spanish laud. Colin Goldring played a recorder on this track. Then we go to All Good People, which is written by Squire. And I found another place Anderson helped him write it, so I don't know which one's correct. It consists of multiple distinct movements spliced together to form a cohesive, longer work. And Your Move was a top 40 hit in the US, which did help the band like build that momentum. Later album-oriented rock stations would frequently play the entire nearly 7-minute track, including both Your Move and the second part, written by Squire, All Good People. And Your Move has a bunch of lyrical stuff in here. It alludes to the game of chess as a metaphor for male-female relationships. And then a reference to John Lennon's work is in the lyrics, Send an Instant Karma to Me, with Instant Karma being a single released by Lennon in 1970. And we also got, in the closing moments of it, the chorus of Lennon's song, Give Peace a Chance, is sung by the backing vocalist under the main melody. So very interesting there. All right, man. Let's check this thing out. Let's see how it stacks up to the previous Sweet track. The nice 1970s Fade Out. Let's go. All right, the 2-part Sweet. I've seen all good people. So freaking good, man. Starts with that tri-harmony right away, right? Really showcase. First time it's been really showcased, isolated there. And then you get that really nice acoustic guitar in there before we ever get into the Your Move part. And that was where Howe was playing the Portuguese guitar. Your Move, just, I mean, it's just so well done. Love the harmonies. The recorder, I mentioned it during, recorder coming in. The recorder actually works, right? Something that in the United States, every elementary school student plays. It actually works in here. It is about using chess to talk about romantic relationship. And it's what I mentioned, about John Anderson talking about, how he likes to write something in abstract. I mean, this is another perfect example of that. And then he gets a sentence to Carmen and Me. And then the chorus, getting that little call and response on there, the bridge. In the background, all we are saying is give peace a chance. After that, did it. Then we go to All Good People, which is just 2 lines. I've seen all good people turn their heads each day. So satisfied, I'm on my way. But they do it in a way that just sounds just so nice, right? Those harmonies are so powerful. Little country rock sort of on there. So Kev's definitely right. This thing's very varied. It's definitely not a prog rock album, but we'll cover that at the end, but that was fantastic. Now we got another shorter song, at least for this album, A Venture. Anderson wrote it in the studio. It was then arranged by the rest of the band. Notable, they say, is the delicate keyboard work of Tony Kaye, so he's going to get kind of showcased on here. Particularly the excursion that fades out at the conclusion. It also shares imagery with Going for the One's wondrous stories, in which the subject similarly lays by a river and listens to stories from their forgiver that have a profound influence on their life. All right. Once again, getting that nice fade out in there. We got A Venture, not Adventure, A Venture. Highlights on here for me, definitely going to be Squire's bass. It really gets to shine here, and the Tony Kaye keyboard work is fantastic. It's fine. I mean, I like the harmonies in the chorus there. It's fine. It's probably my least favorite song on here, but there's only 6 songs, and the other songs have been absolutely fantastic. And we're already up to the last track. We got Perpetual Change. Anderson and Squire. Anderson was inspired to write the lyrics for it by the view of the countryside from the cottage at Churchill, where they were doing those rehearsals I talked about at the start. He thought of humans completing the moon landing at a time when, quote, our own environment is all fouled up, and a space mission that involved an explosion on the moon to observe its thickness and the subsequent Pakistani floods in 1970. So Anderson says, so I was thinking, okay, you knock the moon off its axis and you're going to mess up the world. The middle of this track features a polyrhythmic structure where 2 pieces of music in different time signatures are played simultaneously. So I always like those. They always trip you out just a little bit. Let's do it. All right, Perpetual Change. A great way to finish this album. Another long track that just goes, right? It's just this grand instrumental showcase. It opens up with a really good instrumental build, and then it kind of dials back to some really good bass work from Squire in there. And then, Anderson just takes those lyrics and kind of mixes them up and kind of reverses them and does some different things throughout the song itself. I really thought everybody showcased on this one. Really good drumming on here as well. And the piano work and organ work from Kaye is spot on. I don't mention Steve Howe enough. I mean, I know a couple of these songs, he's got either the song is in clap or his suite in there, but his guitar work is just fantastic. But everything on this album is so crisp. And even in this song, it actually faded all the way out just to the left channel, just to my left headphone, and almost faded away and then brought it back in. So the production work was fantastic as well. That's going to segue me into my favorite tracks. It's not going to be difficult. Honorable mention, that last song, Perpetual Change. Faves are going to be Yours Is No Disgrace, which I found to be the most prog song on here. And I told you at the start, I'm hot and cold on prog, but I really did enjoy that. And then my other 2 faves, I'm trying to decide which one's my favorite. I've seen All Good People, and then Starship Trooper I think I'm going to go with as my fave, but I know it could go either way. I see on Spotify that I've seen All Good People has a lot more views, but you can't go wrong with either one of those. So 3 songs is a fave, 1 of honorable mention. There's only 6 songs on here, which transitions me into my overall score. Trucker Kev gives this thing a 9.25. Obviously, he has all these years with this album and listening to it on repeat and bringing it, so his score is going to be sky high, and rightly so, because the stuff I've heard of Yes, I liked, but I did not love. I thought this definitely showed me a different side of him, as I know Kev was hammering on his introduction that this is not prog rock. And it's really not. A couple songs had, obviously influences of. I thought the first song and then actually the last song here, Perpetual Change, could get a little proggy as well, not in a bad way. But my overall score on this album is going to be an 8.5. I mean, it is so, so good. You will not find better instrumentation and musicianship. You just won't. You can find it as good. I don't know how it can be better than this album. So thank you to Kev for bringing this to me. Let me know what you guys think of this album. What else should I check out from Yes? I know most of you are going to tell me Close to the Edge, but let me know your thoughts on that. If you haven't already, give us a subscribe and a thumbs up. We appreciate it. Until next time, guys, I will see you.